Every story begins with a question. Tonight we will search for the answer together. So, come closer and let the past speak for itself.
There was a time when humanity had no gods, no temples, no prayers, no sacred books. For tens of thousands of years, our ancestors lived in a world that was every bit as dangerous as it was mysterious. Lightning split the sky, floods destroyed entire landscapes, predators waited in the darkness. Yet despite these terrifying forces, there is no convincing evidence that the earliest humans believed in gods. Something essential was still missing. Religion could not begin until human beings first became capable of recognizing their own vulnerability. Animals fear storms. Humans ask why storms exist. That single difference changed history forever. Religion was not born simply because nature was frightening. It emerged because the human mind learned to reflect upon reality itself. Only after people became conscious of the forces surrounding them could they begin to imagine invisible powers behind those forces. This was the first great revolution of human thought. If religion did not appear immediately, what came before it? The answer was not gods, it was magic. Today, we often think of magic and religion as opposites. One is dismissed as superstition, while the other is treated as sacred faith. But history tells a different story. Long before temples, priests, or holy scriptures, early humans believed that nature itself could be influenced through ritual. To them, the world was alive with hidden connections. A successful hunt was never just skill. A failed harvest was never simple bad luck. Everything happened for a reason, even if that reason could not yet be seen. This way of thinking gave birth to the first rituals. Hunters danced before entering the wilderness. Spears were thrown into carved stones before the real hunt began. Paintings of animals appeared deep inside caves, illuminated only by flickering fire. To modern eyes, they look like works of art. To the people who created them, they may have been something far more important. A rehearsal for reality. Early humans noticed a simple pattern. The more they practiced together, the more successful their hunts became. Without understanding cause and effect, the human mind formed one of its first great illusions. If repeating the ritual was followed by success, then the ritual itself must possess power. This was not irrational by the standards of its time. It was humanity's first attempt to explain a world that had not yet revealed its laws. Magic became the earliest language through which people tried to communicate with the unknown. It was the first bridge between observation and imagination. For thousands of years, human imagination continued to evolve. Then, another extraordinary idea appeared. Perhaps the world itself was alive. Not just animals, but rivers, mountains, trees, the wind, the stars. Every part of nature seemed to possess an invisible presence hidden beneath its physical form. This belief became known as animism. Nothing truly disappeared. When a person died, something invisible seemed to remain. When a great tree fell, perhaps its spirit still lingered. The physical world became only one layer of reality. Behind every visible object existed another world that could not be touched, but could still influence human life. From this belief came the first spirits. Not all spirits were gods. Most were simply unseen companions sharing the same universe. People sought their protection, feared their anger, and attempted to communicate with them through ritual. Soon, every tribe developed sacred places, sacred animals, sacred objects, the first totems, the first fetishes, objects that were believed to carry invisible power. Whether they truly possessed that power was beside the point. People believed they did, and belief itself began reshaping civilization. For the first time, the invisible had become part of everyday life. As belief in invisible forces spread, every tribe faced the same question: who could communicate with them? Not everyone claimed to understand the unseen, but some individuals seemed different. They entered deep trances. They danced for hours around the fire. They fasted, consumed powerful plants, spoke in strange voices, and claimed to travel beyond the ordinary world. These people became humanity's first shamans. They were not kings. They were not priests. Not yet. They were hunters, storytellers, healers, and guides through a reality no one else believed they could enter. To the tribe, the shaman stood between two worlds. One foot remained among the living, the other walked among spirits. Before a hunt, the shaman performed rituals. Before a migration, the tribe sought guidance. Before battle, they searched for signs hidden in dreams, smoke, bones, and stars. Whether these rituals truly changed the world is impossible to know, but they certainly changed the people performing them. Shared ceremonies united entire communities. Fear became courage. Uncertainty became purpose. The ritual itself created confidence, and confidence often meant survival without realizing it. Humanity had discovered one of its greatest inventions. Not fire, not the spear, but shared belief. No experience shaped religion more profoundly than death. For early humans, death was not immediately understood. A person who had spoken yesterday, moved yesterday, hunted yesterday, suddenly became silent. The body remained. But something essential was gone. What had disappeared? At first, many communities buried their dead close to where they lived. Some remained inside caves. Others rested beneath the floors of family shelters. The dead were not abandoned. They were remembered, honored, protected. Generations lived beside the remains of their ancestors. As time passed, something remarkable happened. People began preserving objects that represented those who had died. A carving, a skull, a decorated grave, a symbolic figure. These were more than memories. They became substitutes for the person who was gone. If the body remained motionless, yet the memory still seemed alive. Perhaps an invisible part of the person had survived. From this simple idea emerged one of humanity's most powerful concepts, the soul, not a body, not flesh, but an unseen self capable of existing beyond death. Once the soul was imagined, everything else began to change. Animals could possess souls. Trees could possess souls. Rivers, mountains, the wind, even the stars. The visible world was no longer enough. Behind everything stood an invisible reality. Human civilization had entered the age of spirits. As thousands of years passed, humanity changed once again. The Ice Age came to an end. Forests expanded, rivers shifted, people settled. Agriculture replaced constant migration. Villages became permanent homes. Permanent homes became growing communities. For the first time in history, large numbers of strangers lived together. Each family brought its own traditions, its own ancestors, its own sacred stories, its own invisible protectors. These beliefs could no longer remain isolated. They had to be united. At the same time, another revolution was taking place. Farming produced surplus food. Surplus created wealth. Wealth created power. Power demanded organization. Some people no longer spent every day hunting or farming. Instead, they became full-time guardians of the sacred. The old shaman slowly transformed into something entirely new, the priest. Unlike the shaman, whose authority came from personal experience, the priest represented an institution. He preserved rituals, interpreted sacred traditions, declared which gods deserved worship, and decided how people should communicate with the invisible world. Religion was no longer only a personal attempt to understand existence. It had become part of society itself. For the first time, faith became organized. And with organized religion, civilization entered a completely new age. As villages grew into cities, human society became more complex than ever before. Thousands of people now lived side by side. Fields had to be managed. Harvests had to be stored. Conflicts had to be settled. No tribe could survive on tradition alone. Civilization demanded authority, and wherever authority appeared, religion followed. The first rulers were often the same people who claimed to understand the invisible world. The priest became the king became the priest. Political power and spiritual power merged into one. To obey the ruler was to obey the gods. Across Mesopotamia, Egypt, and countless early civilizations, temples rose above every other building, not simply as places of worship, but as the heart of society itself. They stored grain, recorded laws, organized labor, collected taxes, studied the stars. Religion was no longer separate from civilization. It had become civilization's foundation. The gods themselves began to change. The countless spirits of forests and rivers slowly gave way to powerful divine rulers. Instead of hundreds of equal spirits, there were now great gods, guardians of kingdoms, creators of nations, masters of heaven. As human societies became more organized, their gods became more organized as well. Religion was evolving, together with humanity. But power always demanded something in return. If the gods protected the people believed they must offer gifts. At first, these offerings were simple: food, animals, tools, objects of value. Over time, The sacrifices became greater. Entire ceremonies were devoted to maintaining harmony between heaven and earth. The king himself was often believed to embody divine power. His health reflected the health of the kingdom. His strength guaranteed prosperity. His survival ensured cosmic order. In some of the earliest civilizations, when the sacred ruler grew weak, he was replaced, not peacefully, but through ritual sacrifice. To modern eyes, the practice appears unimaginable. Yet to those societies, the sacrifice was not murder. It was renewal, one life offered so that countless others might continue. As kingdoms expanded, however, a practical problem emerged. Powerful rulers no longer wished to die simply because tradition demanded it. Gradually, a substitute appeared. Another person would die in the ruler's place. The sacrifice remained. Only the victim changed. Without realizing it, humanity had created one of the oldest religious ideas in history, the innocent life offered for the survival of everyone else, an idea that would echo through countless civilizations, long after those first kingdoms disappeared. As cities became empires, their religions changed once again. Every tribe had once worshipped its own spirits. Every village had honored its own sacred places. But empires could not survive with thousands of competing gods. They needed unity. Just as one king ruled the land, many societies began imagining one supreme god ruling the heavens. The old spirits did not disappear overnight. They became servants, messengers, lesser divine beings. Above them stood a higher authority, a single ruler of the unseen world. This transformation reflected something deeper than theology. It reflected politics, as earthly kingdoms centralized their power. Religious belief became centralized as well. The structure of heaven began to resemble the structure of human civilization. Religion was no longer simply explaining nature. It was explaining society itself. The divine world became a mirror of the human world below. From the outside, religion appears to be a collection of beliefs, but history tells another story. It is also the story of human imagination, of cooperation, of fear, of memory, of survival. Every ritual, every burial, every painted cave, every sacred animal, every ancient temple marked another step in humanity's attempt to understand existence. The first religions did not appear fully formed. They evolved. Just as language evolved, just as civilization evolved, just as humanity evolved, the questions changed, the answers changed, but the search itself never ended. The great religions that would later shape billions of lives did not emerge from nowhere. They were built upon tens of thousands of years of human thought, upon forgotten rituals, forgotten tribes, forgotten civilizations. The story of religion is ultimately the story of us, because before humanity searched for God, humanity first searched for meaning, and that search continues today.
History leaves us with more than answers. It leaves us with questions worth asking. Until next time, keep searching.